Okay, so I think that the best place to start with the tour is probably the central part of any craft room or studio, which is the desk. So this is my desk and it's from IKEA, as is most of the furniture in my craft room. And at the moment it's pretty bare. I've been trying to keep it pretty clutter free just to give me as much space as possible. The desk that I have is 2 meters long. So it's really, really long, but it's not very wide. So I really like to have as much space as I possibly can. The legs that I have for my desk are actually the Alex drawers. So these Alex drawers, I really like that they just give me that little bit of extra storage. So on top of my desk, I just have this little wooden drawer unit, which I got from Kmart a while ago. I've got some sticky notes and some blue tack and this little box, which in this box I have some random vintage ephemera. So by vintage I mean it's actually brand new but it looks vintage, so I keep that in the box. And then in the top drawer I have these index cards which I got from Officeworks. And then in the bottom drawer I have, what do I have? I have nothing. Nothing in the bottom drawer at this stage. And then I have this little pencil case on my desk which has some pencils and pencil sharpener and maybe some pens. So that's all that I have on my desk, apart from this plastic. This is like a mat that I bought off eBay, which is supposed to stop, I think it's supposed to protect your carpets from your desk chairs. But I got one from eBay and I cut it in half to protect my desk so that when I'm filming it's still just plain white, but I can work on top of that mat and everything just pretty much wipes off it and keeps my desk clean. So in the Alex drawers on this side of my desk, in the top drawer I keep my traveler's notebooks, and I kind of just throw things in here that I want to put into my journal. So just little random bits and pieces from my everyday life, as well as some pens that I use for journaling, photographs, and yeah, I kind of just throw them in there and then I can just pull them out and put them into my journal. The second drawer holds my embossing stuff, so my embossing powders. I also have a fuse tool and some embossing folders here. And then I have some Inca Gold and some sprays, just kind of random mixed media stuff. In the next drawer, this is where I keep my stamping stuff, or some of my stamping stuff. So my ink pads and my mounted stamps, like my wooden stamps. I also have some baby wipes and some acrylic blocks and like a little distress tool and some little roller date stamps. And then in the drawer below that, this is where I keep my die cuts. So these folders are from Officeworks, and this is where I keep my dies. I kind of have them organized by categories, so kind of by like baby or die cuts I've cut out myself, more vintage looking dies, and then there's like some wedding ones and party ones, and then there's some empty ones here which I have for kind of just to be able to expand if I get more stuff. And then in this box, this is kind of where I keep my props for taking photos of my Etsy journals. It's kind of hard to open because I have to pull this stuff out to get to it, but it's got some vintage postcards and photographs which I feel are too precious to really use. And then in the bottom drawer, these are my drawstring bags which I send my handmade journals off in. This time they're all mismatched fabrics, which is kind of cool. And then in the back I've just got some cords and stuff, and my camera usually goes there. And then taking you over to the opposite side, same kind of drawers again. In the top drawer, this is where I keep my binding tools, and it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but I've got needles and clips and a blade, some super glue, crocodile, my glasses, just some random binding tools and stuff. And then the next drawer has some stencils and my heat tool. The drawer below that holds my project life cards. So they're kind of organised by the kit that they came in. And then I've got some random cards as well. And then in the very back of this drawer, I've got some random little pouches, which I've been sent in different Happy Mails, which I kind of just keep there. And then the drawer below that, this is where I keep my dies. So I don't have very many, but I keep them in this little zip folder thing. And then back here, this is just like decorative scissors, a hot glue gun, and my tape. And the very bottom drawer is pretty boring. I just keep some clear containers, these like takeaway containers, which kind of come in handy, and some post envelopes and some empty Project Life boxes, which I kind of want to alter one day. So kind of just a random drawer. So that is what is on and in my desk. The chair at my desk, actually both chairs in my craft room, the other one over there, I both kept from my wedding. So just kind of for sentimental reasons, and I just thought the colours were so pretty for my craft room, so I kept 2 chairs. Beside my desk on the right hand side, I have another Acrylic straw unit. This is the really tall one, and on top of it I keep my clear stamps. So this is an acrylic CD case holder thing with CD cases in it, but I have my clear stamps and a couple of rubber stamps in these cases, so I can just pull them out. So that just kind of keeps them nice and neat. Beside that, I also have some other bigger cases. They're kind of like DVD size cases. There's some Stampin' Up ones for my bigger stamps that wouldn't fit. And then I've got this clear display folder, and this is where I keep the little acetate sheets that have the stamp images on them, so that when I want to use the stamp, I can kind of just flick through the display folder and see what stamps I have. So that's kind of handy to have. And that way I kind of don't have to go and pull out all of my stamps to see what I have. I can just flick through the folder and then look for that particular stamp set. Beside that, I have one of the little wooden drawers out of the Kmart unit that was on my desk over there. Just have it out so that I can keep my markers in it. These are the cheapo like knockoff versions of the Copic markers, even though they're nothing like them, but they're called Touch 5 Twin Marker, and I got them on eBay. So they're just like a cheap little knockoff brand of markers. And then I have a couple of dishes here which I got from different thrift shops or op shops or secondhand shops, and this is where I keep my paper clips and little pegs and pins and bookmarks and stuff like that. And these are my little canvas tags which I put on my handmade journals. So that's what's on top of the unit. And then for the unit itself, I actually keep all of my vintage, or almost all of it is vintage ephemera. So in the top drawer I keep vintage wallpaper. This is vintage wallpaper scraps, and these are actually transfers. And then underneath that I have a bunch of napkins, and then beside that I have some random game pieces, so like dominoes, kids dominoes here, wooden dominoes, and plasticky ceramic ones. And then I've got some random bits and pieces, vintage pieces like buttons and game pieces and stuff like that. A lot of this stuff I have been gifted, so I kind of like to use this random miscellaneous stuff as charms whenever I can. Second drawer has ledger paper. So this is a notebook that I found in a op shop, which has some nice lined paper. And then underneath that I have various papers, ledger papers, graph paper, lined paper, all that kind of thing. So second drawer is paper. In the third drawer, this is where I keep vintage greeting cards and postcards and like little collectible cards and stuff like that. And then in this old biscuit tin I have lots of vintage playing cards. In the next drawer I have some lined paper, some envelopes like writing paper, some writing paper sets which Some of them I found in op shops and some of them I've been gifted. And then some more writing paper under there, and then in the back I've got some dressmaker pattern. In the drawer below that I have these various folders and book covers that have different children's book images in them that I use in my journals. And then the drawer below that is wrapping paper, and this is just random note paper, but in these clear folder wallet things here I have wrapping paper. Some of it's new and some of it is vintage. In the drawer below that I have a bunch of Christmas stuff kind of all mixed together because I didn't really know how to organize it, but that's all Christmas. And then the drawer below that is more vintage ephemera, so smaller pieces in folders and more cards and stuff like that, so just more vintage ephemera, miscellaneous. And then in the bottom drawer, this is where I keep my library card pockets and cards. And then I have some Tim Holtz grunge paper, some tissue paper. These are little CD cases. There's some envelopes in there, and there's some more envelopes in this little bucket. So that is the big Acrylic unit. On the opposite side of my desk I have another Acrylic straw unit, but this is the wide version of it. And then on top of that I have this Semco shelf which I got from Spotlight, and it did come white, but I just put some vintage wrapping paper on the back of it just to make it a little bit more fun. On my Semco shelf I kind of keep the things that I reach for fairly often, so I have some threads down the bottom, and then I have these two little mugs that have pens and pencils. I've got some lace, I've got some staplers and some textures, shell that my sister gave to me, some pens and some more markers over there. These little buckets were from Spotlight as well. And then I've got some random little acrylic paints and some little hand punches. And then up here I've got this random little bucket from the reject shop which has some different bits of ephemera that I haven't put into anything yet. And then in these little tins I have some ribbons and some buttons. In this drawer unit itself I keep my embellishments, so more kind of scrapbooky type stuff. In the first drawer, this is where I keep my washi tapes. So these are cutlery organizers from Kmart, and this is just where I keep my tapes. So there's two of the cutlery organizers that fit in the drawer pretty nicely, and then I have just a little bit of extra room for bigger tapes down the side. And my tapes are kind of organized by color or by patterns, so like florals together, or sometimes they're organized by size. And I buy a lot of tapes from AliExpress, eBay and Etsy, where I get most of my tapes. So that's my washi drawer. The second drawer has some more scrapbooky type stuff. So down this side I have all of my alphabet stickers, and then in these little buckets I have tags in this one. I have some handmade cork embellishments in this one, and then down here I just have some really small little embellishments, little flowers and sequins and little dies. And then in this bucket here I have some stickers, some rub-ons, like alphabet stickers, and yeah, just more kind of scrapbooky type stickers. In the next drawer I have more of the same kind of stuff, so I've got lots of buttons down the middle. And then I've got some bigger wooden veneers in that bucket, and then I've got some random embellishments like frames and little tiny glassine bags and dies. And then in the front here I've got these frames. I've got some little pockets, some little pads of journal cards, more frames, and yeah, kind of just random scrapbooky stuff again. In the back there, this little box has all my wooden veneers, like the smaller ones. I've got some flare badges and a couple of other smaller little embellishments, like some decorative paper clips and some little rhinestones and stuff like that. And then in front of that I have these, I think I have 3 more of these clear folios, and these I keep my stickers in. So I use my stickers in Happy Mail, I use them in my journals, and I also use them in scrapbooking sometimes. So they're kind of organized that way. And there's a couple of them there. In the next drawer, I have some post-it notes, little sticky notes, some random writing paper pads, like little to-do list pads. In the back here, this box has some more Christmas stuff in it, like Christmas embellishments. And then I've got some cork sheets, some little foam dots, and I've got a bunch of stickers and foam underneath that. And then the drawer below that has some drawing pads, or like art pads, paper clips, some different arty mediums. So like little oil pastels, some drawing pencil tins, some colouring pencils, like watercolour ones, and just my Derwent ones. And then I've got some more oil pastels, and yeah, all that kind of thing. And then the very bottom drawer, this is my scrap drawer, and this used to be absolutely overflowing. I just over the weekend I went through and cleaned it out. There was a bunch of stuff in here that had been sitting there for a long time and I hadn't used it, and I knew I probably was never going to use it, so I actually donated a bunch of it to my son's preschool because they'll be able to use it for their crafts. Kept all of the scraps that I will use, and so now I have room for more scraps. So that is my big Alex drawer unit. Beside my drawer unit here, I have the raskog cart, and on the top of it, this is where I keep kind of my stuff, my tools that I reach for all the time. So double-sided tape, some glue, a glue stick, some paint brushes. These are some distress stains, and then I've got my scissors and punch and bone folder. And then I have this big empty sauce or ketchup, if you're an American, bottle from the reject shop, which I'm going to fill up with my glue. And then in the next tier, this is where I keep my paints and my kind of painty tools. So these tools in a little random cup. I've got this bucket full of paints, just cheap acrylic paints. I've got a couple of things of crackle medium, these little watercolor set, which is really old. I've got some texture paste and this, whoops, this stuff, which is brush cleaner, and palettes in the back, which, yes, are pretty gross. Some varnish, some white paint, some gesso, some sponges, and then on the side I have this little bucket which I got on eBay, and I've just got some more paints in there. And then on the very last tier, this box has kind of collagey stuff for my art journals, so that's just where I kind of threw all of my art journal stuff. Beside my raskog cart, I have this display unit which I got for my birthday this year. It was actually like a deep walnut colour, and I painted it with white chalk paint. So I painted it with white chalk paint just so that it would match my craft room and the rest of the furniture in here. And this is where I put the journals that I've finished, so journals for Etsy or gifts. Along the top 2 shelves, I've got some vintage books in there at the moment. And then along the bottom, this is kind of all of my personal books. So I've got used journals or journals that I use at the moment. And then I've got some magazines and stuff over that side. And then I've just got a printer. And along the top, I just have another little dish from a op shop which has some clips, and then I've just got some photos, and I actually keep my perfume in here, a little bracelet that my son made for me. And then I've got some notebooks that I made, speaker, and then this is a jewelry box that used to be my mum's, so I keep it there. And yeah, so that is my display shelf. It just gives me a lot more storage to keep my journals that I have finished, so it comes in really handy. In the corner beside my display shelf, I have another desk. This is a corner desk, also from IKEA. So this is kind of like my computer desk, but I don't really use it for that. I kind of just use it for extra space. I have a big pin board on top and a little dish. This is some scrapbook paper I framed, and I use it as a whiteboard. And then I've got this little spice rack that my sister made, and I painted it and I put some scrapbook paper on it, and it holds my punches. And then this is a painting that my son did for me. And my junk journal I'm using at the moment just sits out. So this little unit is good for extra storage. This is where I keep my Canon selfie printer and my cord for it. Down the bottom there I have some extra little notebooks and like to-do list pads and writing sets. I have this little paper storage unit here which just has A4 coloured paper, white paper and actually some tea-dyed paper in there. I've got my tripod back there, and then these little plastic cases I got from Officeworks. They're actually A4 size. I really wanted to get 12 by 12 sizes, but they didn't have any and I couldn't find any anywhere. But these kind of hold my half done or to do projects. So this one at the moment's holding a bunch of space stuff because I want to make a space book for my son. And then this one's holding a bunch of sewing themed stuff for a sewing journal that I've been wanting to make for a long time. So I kind of just stack them up over here, and then it keeps that stuff together because I kind of like to collect things for projects for a while before I work in them. So yeah, I kind of wish that I got a couple more of those. The 12 by 12 papers, I didn't want to cut them to fit in here, so I just folded them in half. I figured that they're going to get folded anyway when I put them into a journal, so that doesn't bother me too much, but that's how I fit the stuff in there. And then on this side, this is my flower press, which my mum gave to me probably when I was like 10. Keep that there. And then I have this little bucket which just kind of has some really random papers which I haven't finished a project. Down the bottom here I've got my finished art journal, some colouring in books, an empty Project Life album which I had some ideas for but never got around to yet, and then this is my pen pal folder which kind of holds my envelope. And then beside that I have some vintage wallpaper rolls stashed in between those two units. And then over this wall I have my big shelf. This is the kallax shelf from IKEA. So mine is 4x4 shelves. Along the top I keep my paper. So these little paper storage acrylic shelves I found on eBay and they fit quite well in here. You just stack them as high as you need. And I buy a lot of my paper in paper pads just because it's kind of the cheapest way to buy them here in Australia. And I've kind of got them organised just by categories again. So I've got like Christmas down the bottom, and then I've got more vintage style papers up the top, and then I've got some double-sided papers here on the top two shelves. The next shelf kind of has more baby related papers because I do a lot of baby memory keeping and a lot of baby journals as well. So I've got some pastel kind of papers, like some plain patterns that are just different colours, which kind of come in handy. And then I've got some baby paper pads and some cutesy paper pads. And then up the top I've got some double-sided baby papers. And then the next shelf has kind of papers that I don't reach for as much here. So I've got some random paper pads here which I got on sale, which I honestly haven't really used. Some older paper pads I've had since I first started scrapbooking and crafting, and they're pretty much all used up down the bottom there. I've got some double-sided sheets of paper here, and then here I've got some more paper pads that I don't really reach for as often, and some single sheets here, and then some paper pads. These ones were from Aldi. And then these are some papers that my friend sent to me, and I didn't really have anywhere to fit them just yet, but they're just there for the moment. And then in the last side, just have a couple of those acrylic shelves. So this is where I keep my cardstock. So those two shelves there have cardstock. And then here, these are 12 by 12 wallets. So again, this is where I put projects that are kind of half started or things that I'm collecting to do a particular project on. So there's 3 of those. And then I have a Project Life sleeve box, which I kind of use the same way. So that is all of my 12 by 12 paper. And then going down the shelf, this little box I got from Spotlight, and it holds my lace and ribbons and stuff like that. Comes with this tray that you put inside it, but it's really, my box is overflowing, so I've just got it on top with some extra stuff that isn't fitting in there at the moment. And then beside that, I have this little door which was yellow, and I covered it again in vintage wallpaper. And this is one of the areas that I really want to improve or need to improve, but this is where I keep my beads and my charms. So this is beads and charms that haven't really been put where they need to go just yet, because I need to get some more little plastic divider trays. And in this bag I have beads that I let my kids do beading with. And then in this lunch box I have some wooden beads. I won't open it up, but some wooden beads and bigger beads. And then in here, which I got from Spotlight, I have some tools in the top compartment, and then this opens out, and this is where I keep my charms and smaller like tiny beads and eyelets and stuff like that. And then up top there's another one of those which has some bigger, more random charms. Beside that I have my sewing machine and a big thing of PVA glue. And then beside that I have this little insert which has some bubble wrap and a bunch of pencil cases. Yum. So on the next shelf inside this door I have some fabric. So I have these two containers which stack. This one's got the bigger pieces of fabric, and then this one has smaller scraps. I've also got some hankies in the container, a big vintage sheet, and like some interfacing and stuff in there. Beside that, this Project Life album. This is actually what I keep my plastic sleeves in for scrapbooking, so all of my empty sleeves go in there just as a way to store them neatly. And then I have another little A4 paper storage drawer unit. If you can hear chewing, it's just my son. Yeah, and look at your static hair. Is it nice? Yeah. So in here I have some vellum. So some decorative patterned vellum in there. And then I have some various paper bags and different types of bags, like glassine bags and stuff in there in all different sizes. And then below that I have more craft paper bags. And then below that I have my doilies. So some coloured doilies and then some bigger doilies. And then below that, this is kind of just random. This is a little postcard wallet which I was going to alter. And then below that I have some clear plastic packaging. In the shelf next to that I have my Project Life albums. So this one is from last year. It's unfinished but it's pretty doable. Like I think I can get it done. This one is my older son's first year album. This one's my second son's first year album, and then this one is going to be our wedding album. And then in this little shelf I have books to alter. So just some random books, music books and stuff like that. And then in the very bottom shelf I have kind of more random stuff. In here I won't open it up because it's really just a mess, but there's some extra pencil cases and some more art journal stuff. And then over here this case has all of my chipboard and stuff that I recycle to make my covers. And then down here this box has some cards and letters and all just random stuff I've saved since I was a kid. So that's just kind of like a memory box. And then in this one I have some more books. So these are more like children's books which I use in my journals. And then the last little shelf, these boxes have my photos. So I have a lot of printed photos of my kids and my family in these boxes. This is another place in my craft room that I'm not really happy with. I'd like to get some like 6x4 photo boxes, like clear photo boxes, to organize those photos better. But for now, you know, they're all in one place, so that's fine. So that is my big kallax shelf. In this box I keep my 6x6 paper pads, so I don't really reach for these as much as the 12x12 papers. And then down the side here I have some 8x8 paper. And then this little drawer unit is like a desk add-on, but I put it up here, and I kind of just keep random stuff. I keep like whiteboard markers, some staplers, some clear or empty discs. And then in the other side I have my envelope punch board, and then in between that my paper trimmer fits pretty perfectly under there. So under there, that just kind of keeps it out of the way when I'm not using it. And then along the top I keep more sentimental things. So this is like an old cigar box from my grandpa, and then this tin has some more playing cards in it. This is a jewelry box from my dad, and then I've got some fake flowers from my husband, and then this unit, which I covered in scrapbook paper, holds, so this holds like my business cards and bits and bobs that I put in my orders when I packaged them up. And then the only other thing I haven't shown you is this other little cart that I have at my desk. This is a little cart from Kmart, and this is where I keep like my journaling stuff that I reach for a lot. So because I do creative journaling, for the most part, I have some stickers, I have some dies, which are organized into kind of like stuff I'd use in my boys' inserts. I've got some stencils. In here I think I've got some book pages. I've got some journaling cards, and just some more random little bits and pieces like stickers and fabric. And then in the back, this is a Project Life wallet, and I keep stickers that I use in my journals. Stuff is for what I use in all of my journals. So I have journals for my kids that I write into them, and I also have my own personal journals. So this is stuff that I just use all the time. I also have another clear wallet here, which has more journal cards and stuff, and some vintage ephemera and stuff that I use in my journals. And then I have another little clear folder. This one has more stuff that I want to use in my own journals, so some vintage writing stuff like envelopes and writing papers and postcards. And then I've got these old diaries which have some really pretty floral patterns in them, which I kind of recycle into my journal. On the second tier, this is where I keep my big shot, and then down the bottom I have this wire basket from Kmart which has some really random stuff. This is stuff that I have to send in some happy mail. And then the only other thing you guys may be wondering about is my curtains and my buntings. So the curtains that I have up in my craft room are from a op shop or a thrift shop, and I just wanted to get some sheer curtains because I wanted to be able to let in a lot of light, but the light was just too intense to film any videos. So these curtains work pretty well, and then I just put some vintage hankies, floral hankies, randomly over the curtains just to make them look a little bit more interesting and a little bit more pretty. I would have loved to have stitched them on, but I'm not really a confident sewer at this point, so I've just safety pinned them on. But I really like how they look. So there's two curtains like that. This curtain was just a little bit short for this window, so this is a vintage sheet just hanging up over the side where the gap was. And then these buntings that I have hanging up I got on Etsy. I'll put a link in the description box to the Etsy shop that I bought them from because they're really beautiful and they're just so well done. I just love how happy they make my room look. So I've got 3 of them. I've got a green one, a blue one, and a yellow one. and I just have them hung across my windows like that. So that is my craft room at this stage. I'm pretty happy with how it is at the moment. As I said, I feel like I'm at a point where I don't really need anything else. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my space, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Bye!